Christchurch is the third largest city in New Zealand. Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch. Population of around 320,000 people. Got what is known as Cathedral Square. Your hotel is almost right in Cathedral Square.
Everything revolves around Cathedral Square, and the maximum walk from our hotel to such attractions as the Botanical Gardens and the Canterbury Museum and the Arts Centre would be about 3 blocks. What they've done in Christchurch is they've put a restriction on how far out the city can actually grow or sprawl. And this was going to be the new Little England of the South Pacific. They say Christchurch is the most English town outside of England. Christchurch is really set up to take care of the visitors, and so there are a number of really fine hotels that are right in the center of town. Christchurch is small enough that you can stay in the center of town and then easily walk out to see all of the attractions that we'll be showing you in today's program. Foremost among the attractions of town is the River Avon. It is just beautiful, flowing gently through the center of town, and you want to take a boat ride when you're in Christchurch. The best way to do it is on the punt, as they call it. And later in the program, we are going to take you on a longer punt ride down the River Avon, right through the center of Christchurch, enjoying the beautiful scenery gliding by on both banks of the river. Quite a few of the main sites and activities of downtown Christchurch are clustered right along the river, such as Oxford Terrace you see here. It's a very popular cafe terrace for outdoor dining and just drinking and talking. And then the main part of downtown is just a few blocks long. It's about 5 blocks long, 5 blocks wide, and it all extends out from the river terrace. We're looking now at some of the main parts of downtown. Here's the City Mall. They've got several pedestrian streets. There's New Regent Street, which is a very popular one. And some of the other main streets in the heart of town are Gloucester Street and Worcester Street, Hereford Street. You'll notice, of course, the English heritage in the names of the places and also in the style of architecture. Here's an amazing complex of neo-Gothic architecture. We'll take you into this art center a little bit later. And there's a tram, a historic trolley that is still in operation today. And it takes you on a city loop tour for about 2 miles right through the center of town. And this makes a very nice way to get a quick overview of the city. Very comfortable and also very functional. Riding on steel rails right down the city street, so it's very accessible and used primarily for tourists. It's not really a commuter vehicle any longer. Of course, it was back in the days 100 years ago when it was first starting operation, but now it makes a nostalgic way to take a trolley tour. In the background you see the Canterbury Museum, and we'll be taking you in there shortly in the program. It's a history museum with a really important collection of Antarctica as well as Maori history, and passing some of the other neo-Gothic buildings of the center of Christchurch. Newer building, part of the music school of Christ's College. So we're taking you on a little tram ride passing Cranmer Square, one of the nice little parks in town. And then we continue along Armagh Street to Victoria Square, and there's a statue of Queen Victoria standing right in the middle of it. The vehicles date back to 1905. These are really old trams. And some of the buildings that we're passing are even earlier, as in the 1860s. This neo-Gothic structure is 1880s. And going right down New Regent Street, which is largely a for pedestrians. You see this pedestrian mall here. And the buildings are in a Spanish colonial style, something like you might find in California. This particular street, New Regent Street, is noted for these Spanish colonial facades. Quite colorful. And they have the overhanging awning to shelter the pedestrians from the sun and from the rain. As we continue along on the tram, some Victorian Gothic structures mixed in, passing again over the river Avon. And the tram line takes you only about half an hour to ride the circuit, and it brings you back to Cathedral Square once again, which is very much the center of town. Christchurch Cathedral, designed by Sir Gilbert Scott, who was a very important architect in the Victorian era in London. He designed, for example, St. Pancras Station in London, and he did a really marvelous job with the Christchurch Cathedral. And there's the Bridge of Remembrance, crossing over the Avon into the Botanic Gardens. Christchurch is known as the City of Gardens because the residents love to have their gardens, their flower gardens out front and in the back, and there's a lot of statues commemorating the different important people. There's Victoria again, and we have statues to the explorers and to the founder of the city, and beautiful fountains on display here in the Botanic Gardens as well. The Botanic Gardens are open all day and they're free, no charge to come on in here. And they really have a large collection of indigenous and exotic plants, the largest such collection on the South Island. Well, more scenes around the town of Christchurch. You see some very old and historic buildings. They've done a good job with their preservation laws of keeping the old facades. And Christchurch really has to be considered the most attractive city in all of New Zealand. Now, parts of Auckland certainly are very nice and very friendly to the pedestrian, Auckland being the largest city up on the North Island. Christchurch is quite a bit smaller population, just over 300,000, and it's very much a pedestrian city for walking. As we visit the Christchurch Arts Centre. Now, I have to say, this is really a wonderful place. It's in these old neo-Gothic buildings that used to be Canterbury University. Well, the university moved out over 30 years ago, and the artists moved in. They set up their art studios and stores on the campus of what had been Canterbury University, converting it into this really, really incredible art center, and it's open every day. It's got cafes and restaurants. It even has some nightlife as well. So you really must come and visit. You can go up in the observatory if you like, pay a little admission fee and go up on the old telescope tower. They also have the laboratory of John Rutherford on display. He was the physicist who won the Nobel Prize. He worked here in the early 20th century and his early work in radiation. And you can watch the artists and craftspeople at work. Here's an old-fashioned spinning wheel. And there are over 100 different artists working here at the Arts Center. So you can really take your pick from a whole different range of quality goods. And just seeing the buildings themselves and their layout is certainly worth visiting the Arts Center for. That old neo-Gothic style or mock Gothic style